Hi, today we're going to be talking about our latest song, Above the Graves. I'm going to split this video into 3 sections. I'm going to talk about the music theory, so that's what chords we've used and why. I'm going to talk about the arrangement, which is what instruments we've used, and then I'm going to talk about the vocal production. So I hope you enjoy.
Did you ever tell me that I was enough? Always asking questions but never with
First we're going to have a look at the music theory that's gone into the song. I'm just going to select this first bit, which is the verse, and we're going to have a look at what chords we've used. Our first chord here on the guitar is an A minor chord, so we've got A, E and A. The second chord we've got F, C, A, so that's an F major chord. Third one, G, D, A, so our standard G major chord is G, E, E, and then if we were going to add the 7th note of the chord, that would be F sharp, and then A is the 9th of the chord. So that extension just gives it a bit of flavour. And then our final chord here, or our final 2 chords here, are C, C, G, and then another G on the top there, and D minor, D, A, and F. So they're fairly standard chords, the only extension is on that G chord with the A on the top. And then those chords repeat again, and then moving into the pre-chorus, they're starting off the same with our A chord, and then the F chord, the same G chord with the A on the top, and then finally we're moving on to something different, so we've got an E major chord here. What's interesting about this chord is that it has a G sharp in it. So if I select all of the chords and notes up until that point, we can see that we are not using a G sharp. Our key is A natural minor, and that looks like this: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So it doesn't have a G sharp in it, we've actually got a G natural in it. So then what's interesting about this E major chord that's now coming in with the G sharp is that we're now moving into the A harmonic minor, which sounds like this. So we've now got a note which is a raised 7th, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've moved that 7th note up 1, we've raised it, and that creates a leading tone, and it sounds like it wants to go back to our home chord, which is A minor. So if I play E major followed by A minor, it sounds like one leads into the other. And what that's doing for us here in the song is it's leading into our chorus, because at the end of our pre-chorus you can see that we're landing on this E major chord and then returning back to the A minor chord for the chorus. So we've got this nice kind of question and answer which is leading into the chorus and creating an impact for us. So moving on to the chorus, we're actually sort of shifting key here. So we've started with the chord A minor, and then we've got E minor, followed by G major, and then interestingly we are ending here on D major. And what's different about this chord is that it has an F sharp at the top. So previously we know that our key was A minor, which was A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then we added in the G sharp, which was our leading tone, and now we've got an F sharp. So I would call this a Dorian mode, which uses all of the notes of G major, but just shifted up a tone to start on A rather than G. So G major is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, and we're moving that up a tone, and we're going to play A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And that's where that F sharp is coming from there. So we've stayed with the root chord of A minor, but we're moving from A minor to A Dorian. And what that does by shifting key for the pre-chorus and the chorus ever so slightly is it gives each section its own distinct quality, which I think is really nice for this song. And then following that chorus, the second verse is using exactly the same chords as the first verse, same with the pre-chorus, the second chorus, and then our instrumental bit here at the end is just following the chorus chords again. So there's nothing else to talk about in terms of the music theory, so I'm going to move on next to the arrangement.
The echoes of your doubt remain.
In terms of the arrangement, we start out really simple, just guitar and vocals. We've got two different guitar sounds which we've just layered together because they had slightly different qualities and we just wanted to combine those qualities. So I can show you what they sounded like separately. This is the first one. And this is the second one. So the first one has more of a kind of twangy sound, and then the second one is quite warm and full. So combined they sound like this. And that's how we've achieved that sound. And then we're sticking with just that simple guitar and vocal arrangement until we get to our chorus, which is here, where we've added in a sub bass, which is just a very low synth bass. And as well as that, we've got a small string arrangement and two different synthesizers which sound like this. And they're just adding a little bit of melody, but mostly chords, just a bit of texture in the background. And this one is panned to the right, so that's also filling out our stereo field and making the chorus sound a bit thicker. Moving on to the second verse, the most prominent thing that you can hear we've added is the drums. So we've got these here, and that's quite a basic country sort of sounding train beat. I was talking with the singer Millie and we were saying that it sounded a little bit like a country song, so I thought, oh, I'll add in a sort of country beat and play into that a little bit. And as well as that, we've added in a bass guitar, which sounds like this. And it's very subtle, but it just adds to the rhythmic elements that we've introduced and it complements the drums. And because the chorus is slowed down and doesn't have much rhythm, having the drums come in here in this second verse just really sets it apart and plays into that subversion of having the chorus go quite slow moving and atmospheric. Because obviously usually the chorus is where the rhythm really kicks in and a song becomes more upbeat, but what we've done is we've just flipped that on its head and had the chorus really slow down and become quite lyric based. And then at the end of the second verse, all I've done is chop up the drum beat to have some slight pauses so that we're really complementing the guitar and how the rhythm is kind of slowing down and moving into this more slow moving chorus. So I'll play you what that sounds like.
Always asking questions, but never with love. Never with love, never with love.
And then just here at the end, I've also added in some MIDI drums, which is just a kick and a clap. And we're building up the rhythm towards the end of the verse there. Then when the second chorus comes in, it's more or less the same as the first one, except that we've added in some more guitars here. And these are just working together to create this effect of sliding between the chords. So I'll play you what this sounds like. And all I've done to create this effect is add on some of Logic's pitch bend, which you can see here in the automation. So it's starting out at minus 63 cents and then it's just bending up back to 0, and that's when our guitar comes in. Then we get to the end of our second chorus and that's when it becomes quite cinematic and the instrumentals really take over. I've added in some solo string instruments, a solo violin and a solo cello, and as well as that we've got some rhythm here on the synths. I can show you what these sound like. And that's also got a bit of pitch bend on it there to add to that sensation of sliding between the chords. And then there's some elements of impact here, which are a bell and a bass drum combined with this low rumbling synth, which just transitions into the cinematic portion of the song. And all of that's just creating a bit of impact for when that comes in. Obviously we've got our country drums returning here. You can see in the audio file that this bit is fairly quiet, and then we're building up to the louder drum beat here at the end. And you can also see that our strings are rising up. We'll have a look at the MIDI here. So we're starting down low, and then we've got this rising melody. We're adding in more elements as it goes along. You can see that the violin is coming in around here, and the guitar is picking up, playing this strumming pattern around here. And on top of all of that in the instrumental, we've got our backing vocals, which are just going on in either ear, and they sound like this. And there's some really beautiful harmonies that are adding another texture, a kind of breathy texture on top of everything else. And then when we get to this point, we've got some hints of vocals coming in, which are just adding to the instrumental, picking out particular lines from the chorus that we wanted to bring back here. And then all of it just culminates in this drop back down to the main line of Will I Be Just Your Creation, the main line of the song. Everything just drops down, the drums come away, we're ending on a sub bass, and the solo strings combined with this synth playing the finishing chord and the reverb from the vocals, which brings us out to the end of the song. The final thing that I want to talk about in this video is the production that's been done on the vocals. Starting with the verse, we've got some lovely harmonies that the singer has recorded, and they've been panned into the left and right ears to fill out the stereo field and just keep those lines separated. I can show you what these sound like when they're soloed.
I found my place above the grave, tainted by your hate. I hear your voice.
And they complement each other really nicely, they sound great together. Then the pre-chorus, we're keeping it very simple, we've just got our main vocal. So moving on to the chorus, I've done the same thing here which I did in our first song, Burn the Curtains Down, which is to take out some notes that I think can benefit from a bit of extra reverb. And then I've copied those audio files onto a channel with extra reverb, duplicated that, panned it left and right to fill out the stereo field, and this is what it sounds like. So all I've done to these is I've added a little bit of echo so that that reverb is just echoing on and filling out those long gaps that we've got in our chorus, because as I said before, it's quite slow moving. And I've added a lot of reverb, as I mentioned. Then I've just taken out a lot of the low end, so all of these frequencies down here have been attenuated because we don't want them muddying up the mix. And then this third one down here, I've put on an echo effect which sounds like this. So hopefully you can hear that just repeating and filling out some of the space that we've got. And then this is a long reverb that was just going to carry on that sound and make it sound as if it's been recorded in a large space, like a large hall. It sounds like this. So you can hear that continues on for a really long time. As I said a few times, it's just filling out the space. Then again, our second verse is just kept fairly simple. There's not much going on there. We just wanted quite a raw acoustic sound for that. And then moving on to the second chorus, we have these lovely harmonies coming in which sound like this. And I've done a bit of editing here just to get them all in time so that they sound like they're moving as a team. So I've used Logic's flex pitch, which allows you to just drag the notes about like so. And then we can get all of those changes happening at the same time, all of the breaths happening at the same time, and it all sounds very synergistic, like it's all working together in harmony. The final section to talk about is our little cinematic outro at the end. So here the vocals come back in. We've used some volume automation here just to bring in the vocal lines, and we've just picked out some of the important lines. We've not got our main vocal, we've just got the reverberant, high-end, echoey parts, and they sound like this. So you can hear there's loads of echo and reverb, loads of effects going on there, and they're adding a new texture on top of all the other elements that we've got. So I mentioned already having tracks with echo on them, but this track at the bottom here has a slightly different echo, so it's a 1/8 note, whereas this one is a half note. So it's going to come around slightly faster and sound a little bit more kind of jumbled with all these echoes just repeating very fast. And as well as that, on this track we have this funky reverb which is called Planetary, and it has a really interesting sound, a really long sound, and this is actually finishing off our song. It sounds like this.
Your creation.
It's such a weird, interesting sound, and I love that that just finishes off the whole song. I think it's really cool.
I'd be just your creation.
So that's everything that I wanted to mention in this video. If you haven't heard the song yet, Above the Graves is available on all major streaming services, so you can go and check it out if you're interested. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I really hope that this was interesting to hear about. I'm planning to make videos like this for all of our songs, so if you do find it interesting, then you could consider subscribing to our channel. And other than that, have a great day.